I saw the red on Katie's chest half a second before my body moved, making a decision my brain hadn't caught up to yet. The crack of the rifle split the autumn air as I slammed into her small frame, and the bullet that was meant to shatter a 7-year-old's spine buried itself in my side instead, white hot and final. The pavement rushed up to meet us. I twisted mid-fall, cradling Katie's head against my chest, taking the impact on my hip, the one that didn't have the old injury, the one that still worked right. Her scream pierced my ear, high and terrified, but whole alive. "Stay down, baby," I gasped, pressing her face into my collarbone. My vision whited out at the edges. The pain was a living thing, eating through my rib cage and radiating down my torso in waves. "Don't move. Don't look up." Around us, chaos erupted. Parents shrieked. Car doors slammed. Someone was shouting about calling 911, but I kept my body curved over Katie's, scanning the roofline across the street where I'd seen the muzzle flash. The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth. The shooter was gone. The last thing I registered before the darkness swallowed me was Katie's small, frantic hand gripping mine. "Miss Patricia, you're bleeding." I was just a piano teacher, a failed concert pianist with ruined hands and a mountain of medical debt. I taught scales to rich kids at the Juliana Conservatory because nobody else would hire me. I was invisible, grateful, safe in my smallness. But the moment I took that bullet, my quiet life shattered like glass. Because when I woke up in that private hospital wing with armed guards at my door, I learned the truth. Katie wasn't just my student. She was an heir to an empire. And the man walking through my door, the one whose presence made the air itself feel dangerous, was Maxwell, her uncle, her guardian, and the head of a criminal dynasty I didn't even know existed. He looked at me with eyes like cold river stone and said 4 words that changed everything. "You belong to me now." You know what's wild? Most of you watching this right now will never hit subscribe. You'll watch Patricia's entire story, feel everything she feels, and then just scroll away. It's easier that way, isn't it? No commitment, no connection. But Patricia didn't get to walk away when she saw that red. She made a choice that cost her everything. The least you can do is make a choice that costs you nothing. Subscribe, because stories like this deserve witnesses. And if you're still here, you're already part of hers. The room wasn't standard issue. I could tell that much through the morphine haze. Private wing, expensive equipment, and 2 enormous men in suits that cost more than my yearly salary blocking the door like they were guarding Fort Knox. Then Maxwell walked in, and suddenly those guards made sense. He was a force of nature in charcoal wool, tall, dark, utterly controlled, carrying the weight of something ancient and terrible in the set of his jaw. When his eyes found mine, everything else vanished. The beeping monitors, the antiseptic smell, the dull throb in my side where they'd pulled a rifle round out of my body. "Thank you, Patricia," he said, his voice a low rumble that contained both authority and something that sounded dangerously close to reverence. "You saved my niece. You saved Katie's life." He didn't need to say more. The way the hospital staff deferred to him, the way his men stood like granite statues. I knew. The little girl I taught C major scales to was an heir. And this man was the empire. "You saw the..." Maxwell stated, pacing my room with predatory focus. "You saw the scope." "How?" "I saw the reflection." I corrected, wincing as I shifted. The glass caught the light. I was trained as a professional musician. We're taught to see patterns, to anticipate precise movement, tempo, space in 3 dimensions. I knew exactly where that shot was coming from. Maxwell stopped. His eyes widened, just barely, but enough. He hadn't just gotten a hero. He'd gotten an asset. Someone whose perspective was entirely unique. And that's when I saw it. The calculation behind his gratitude. The way his mind was already working, already fitting me into some larger picture I couldn't see yet. "Because you saved her," he continued, leaning in until his shadow consumed me. "You are now a witness. You are a loose end. And you are a target." I tried to protest. Tried to say I was nobody. Invisible. Just a teacher with a broken career and a studio apartment in Washington Heights. But Maxwell's hand cut through the air like a blade. Non-negotiable, he declared, his voice hard as tempered steel. You belong to me now, Patricia. Absolutely. You are mine to protect. I will not have my niece's savior executed in some rundown apartment because my enemies are tying up loose ends. He gave me a satellite phone, heavily encrypted, he explained, and assigned 2 armed guards. Just like that, my tiny apartment, the one I could barely afford, became a cage. Patricia, who had spent 2 years hiding from the world, suddenly felt utterly, dangerously seen. It was terrifying, and a tiny, rebellious part of me felt a dangerous relief. I went home 3 days later with a prescription for painkillers I couldn't afford and 2 men in tactical gear who made my neighbors cross the street. My apartment had never felt smaller. The guards stood outside my door in shifts. I could hear their low voices through the walls. Every time I looked out my window, I saw the black SUV parked across the street, idling like a patient predator. The satellite phone Maxwell gave me sat on my coffee table like a grenade. He'd programmed only one number into it. His. I didn't sleep that first night. Couldn't. Every sound made me flinch. Every car door made my heart race. I kept seeing that red, kept feeling Katie's small body under mine, kept tasting copper in my mouth. At 2 a.m., the phone rang. Are you sleeping? Maxwell's voice, rough with something that might have been concern. No. Good. Neither am I. A pause. I need you to know something. Patricia, when I say you're mine to protect, I mean it. Every resource I have, every man on my payroll, every favor I'm owed, they're all between you and anyone who would hurt you. Do you understand? I didn't. Not really. Why? You're not just anything, he cut me off. You saw what trained soldiers missed. You moved when anyone else would have frozen. You made yourself a shield for a child you barely knew. That makes you extraordinary. And in my world, extraordinary people are either protected or destroyed. I choose to protect you. The possessiveness in his voice should have scared me. It did scare me. But it also made me feel something I hadn't felt in 2 years. Valuable. Get some rest, he said softly. My men are watching. Nothing will touch you. He hung up before I could respond. I stared at that phone for a long time, realizing that Maxwell was right about one thing. My quiet life was over. The package arrived 3 days later via anonymous courier. Small, dark brown, no return address. My guard examined it first, x-rayed it, opened it with gloved hands. Then his face went white, and he was on his radio, and 30 minutes later Maxwell was standing in my living room looking at the contents spread across my coffee table. Surveillance photos. But not from the shooting. These were from before. Weeks before. Patricia buying coffee at the corner deli. Patricia leaving the conservatory. Patricia waiting for the train. Reading a book on the platform. Patricia walking home. Keys in hand. Completely unaware someone was documenting her entire life. The note was stark. You should have stayed invisible. I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit down. They were watching you, Maxwell said, his voice deadly quiet. Before the attack, they studied your routine, your patterns, your predictability. He picked up one photo, me, walking the same route I walked every day. You weren't targeted because you saved Katie. You were part of the plan all along. His control snapped. The coffee table splintered under his fist. They used you. You were a pawn they placed years ago, and you didn't even know you were on the board. His fury wasn't directed at me. It was directed at the world that dared touch what he claimed as his. This ends now, he stated, his voice dropping to that dangerous whisper that made my spine straighten. Pack one bag. You're moving to the estate. Immediately. Here, you're just waiting to die. There, I can secure you. Maxwell, I can't just... Katie needs you. He played his trump card, and he knew it. She's been asking for you. She has nightmares about that day. You're the only person she trusts right now. She needs her teacher. She needs you. I looked at my piano. The one thing I'd managed to keep after the accident. The one piece of my old life that still meant something. Then I looked at those photos. At the evidence that my quiet life had been a lie all along. Someone had been watching me. studying me, using me, and the only person offering protection was a man whose world terrified me. I stood up. One bag. I packed my essentials in 20 minutes. When we walked out of that apartment, I didn't look back. The ghost of Patricia, the invisible piano teacher, stayed behind. The woman who left with Maxwell was someone new. Maxwell's Westchester estate wasn't a house. It was a fortress carved into a wooded hill, wrapped in layers of security that made the Secret Service look casual. Cameras everywhere, guards patrolling in coordinated patterns, motion sensors hidden in the trees. I was given the sun-drenched guest wing on the second floor. It had a bedroom bigger than my entire apartment, a private bathroom with heated floors, and a sitting room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the grounds, and a music room, soundproof, climate-controlled, with a Steinway concert grand that probably cost more than I'd make in 10 years. The sight of it made my ruined hands ache with phantom memory. I had it tuned yesterday, Maxwell said from the doorway. Katie's been asking when you'd arrive. She wants to show you what she's been practicing. His thoughtfulness disarmed me. This man, this criminal, had seen what I needed and provided it without being asked. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me yet. His expression shifted, became businesslike. I need your help. Tomorrow morning. My office. There's something only you can see. The next morning, Maxwell brought me to the command center, a room filled with monitors, detailed maps, security protocols. It was overwhelming. Military grade. The kind of setup that governments use. Find the holes, he commanded, spreading Katie's schedule and conservatory floor plans across a large table. My men look for tripwires and vantage points. They think like soldiers. You think like a musician. Tell me what they missed. I leaned over the blueprints, tracing Katie's daily routine with my finger. Picked up at 3 p.m., 3 days a week. Private lessons always in Studio C. Always the same window. Always the same position, at the piano. And then I saw it. It's the structure, I said, tapping the map. Katie's a musician. She thrives on routine. Routine is comfort. But routine is also a pattern. And patterns are predictable. I pointed to the window. Studio C faces a public street. Katie always sits at the piano at exactly 2:45 p.m. for her warm-up. Same chair, same angle, same time. Your security was looking for an intruder inside. But the real vulnerability is that someone outside could set their watch by her position. Maxwell's face went white. The window, I confirmed, exposed, regular, fatal. They didn't need to breach your security. They just needed to know her schedule. And schedules at that conservatory are posted publicly for parent access. The silence in that room was deafening. Maxwell's expensive army of former special forces, his millions in security infrastructure, his elaborate protocols, all of it outmaneuvered by a pianist who understood rhythm and spatial awareness. You see the flow, he murmured, looking at me with something like awe. You see what they can't. You're not just a teacher. Patricia, you're my consultant now. My eyes. I trust your instincts above anyone's. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a partner. And that feeling was more intoxicating than any applause I'd ever received on stage. Here's the thing about loyalty. It only means something when it costs you something. Patricia's about to learn that lesson the hardest way possible. And you? You're watching her story, invested in what happens next. But most of you still haven't subscribed. It's free. It takes 2 seconds. But you won't do it because it feels like a commitment, doesn't it? Patricia didn't get to avoid commitment. She took a bullet. The least you can do is hit that button. Do it now, because what comes next, you won't want to miss. The knock on the estate's front door came 2 days later, and with it, a ghost from my past that made my blood run cold. Eliza, the director of the Juliana Conservatory. She swept into Maxwell's home like she owned it, all elegance and calculated concern, wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than 3 months of my salary. The same woman who'd given me a job when no one else would. The same woman who'd saved me from complete ruin after my accident. Patricia, darling. She embraced me, her perfume suffocating. I've been so worried about you. How are you recovering? I'm fine, I said carefully. Maxwell appeared, and I watched Eliza shift mode seamlessly. She turned on the charm, expressing gratitude for Katie's safety, praising Maxwell's protective instincts. Then she got to the point. Katie needs to come back to conservatory, Eliza said, her voice dripping with professional concern. Isolation isn't healthy for a child her age. She needs structure, other children, normal development experiences. You understand that, don't you, Patricia? As an educator. She took my hand, squeezed it with maternal warmth. Then came the knife. I remember when you had nothing, dear, when your hands were ruined and every door in the music world slammed in your face, when you were living on credit cards and couldn't afford physical therapy. I gave you a chance when no one else would. I gave you purpose. I gave you dignity. Her smile was warm, but her eyes were calculating. I hope you remember that gratitude when decisions are being made about Katie's future. My stomach twisted. She was using my debt, my loyalty, my gratitude as a leash, and she knew exactly how to pull it. After she left, I felt sick, used, trapped by obligation to a woman who'd saved me. That evening, Maxwell found me in the music room, staring at the piano without seeing it. She manipulated you, he said quietly. She saved me. I countered, but even I heard how hollow it sounded. Did she? He sat beside me on the bench. Or did she by you? Later, after Katie had gone to bed, Maxwell led me to a room I hadn't seen before. Large, silent, filled with beautiful oil paintings and antique sheet music under glass. This was her mother's room, Maxwell said, his voice rough. Juliana, my sister, the name on the conservatory, Katie's mother. The car accident wasn't an accident, he continued, staring at a portrait of a woman who looked like an older version of Katie. It was a bombing, orchestrated by the Corvino family, a rival organization. They wanted to destabilize my position, hurt me where it mattered most. His composure cracked, just slightly, but enough. I couldn't protect them. I had intelligence about threats, but I missed the one that mattered. I was looking at territories and shipments and power plays, and I missed the fact that they'd target my sister, my brother-in-law, a civilian, a musician, his hands clenched into fists. I failed them, and now the same people are coming for Katie, for their heir. I reached out instinctively, resting my hand on his arm. You haven't failed Katie. You brought her here. You're fighting for her every day. You brought me here to protect her. That's not failure, Maxwell. That's love. He looked at me and something shifted. Something vulnerable and raw and utterly human beneath all that dangerous power. I need you to understand something, he said quietly. In my world, people are assets or threats, tools or targets. But you're neither. You're something I don't have words for. And that terrifies me. That night, we stood on the terrace under cold, silent stars. The air between us was thick with unspoken tension, charged with something neither of us was ready to name. I'm glad you're here, Patricia, Maxwell murmured, turning to face me. Not just for Katie. For me. He reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from my cheek. His fingers lingered, and I felt that touch everywhere. I'd been invisible for so long. The failed prodigy, the grateful employee, the woman with ruined hands and a ruined career who should be thankful for scraps. But Maxwell looked at me like I was priceless. You see me? I whispered. I do, he confirmed, his voice rough with emotion. You're the bravest thing I've ever encountered. The most honest. You don't belong in my world, but I can't imagine it without you now. He started to lean in, and my heart hammered against my ribs. An alert flashed across his phone. His expression hardened instantly. The moment shattered. What is it? New surveillance. Someone's been on the North Ridge. He pulled up photos on a secure tablet. Recent shots of Katie, taken from a hidden vantage point on the property's edge. Closer, bolder. They're escalating. I grabbed the tablet, studied the angle. The North Ridge is only accessible via the old parkland entrance. It's supposed to be closed to the public. Who would even know about it? Maxwell's eyes narrowed. Someone with access to city land registries. Someone with influence. Someone official. The implication hung between us like a noose. The truth arrived at 6 a.m. the next morning. Maxwell's lead investigator had worked through the night, cross-referencing financials, surveillance footage, communication records. When he called us into the command center, his face was grim. "We found the leak," he said, pulling up bank records on the main screen. Offshore accounts, shell companies, payments totaling over $2 million in the last 18 months. The name on the accounts made my world tilt. Eliza, the conservatory director. There's surveillance footage, the investigator continued, pulling up grainy video. Eliza meeting with a man in an expensive suit at a restaurant. The timestamp was from 3 months ago. That's Anthony Curvino, the Curvino family's operational lieutenant. Maxwell's expression went absolutely lethal. "She sold Katie's schedule." "Not just the schedule," the investigator said, pulling up more documents. Academic records, medical information, behavioral reports, everything. She's been feeding them intelligence for over a year. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage. She used me. I whispered, my routine, my predictability. She gave me that job, cultivated my gratitude, made me feel obligated. Also, I would maintain the same schedule year after year. Studio C, same window, same time, every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I was the constant she sold. Maxwell turned to me. "Patricia?" "She destroyed my career," I said, my voice gaining strength. "The accident. The stage cables that failed during my concert. That wasn't an accident, was it?" She needed a desperate teacher. Someone grateful. Someone predictable. Someone who would do exactly what she was told. The investigator pulled up more files. "We're still investigating the original incident, but there are inconsistencies in the maintenance reports from that venue." The rage crystallized into something cold and clear and absolutely certain. I looked at Maxwell. I'm confronting her. I'm not asking permission. I'm telling you, this is my fight now. The confrontation happened at the conservatory in Studio C, the room where I'd taken the bullet, the room where Eliza had orchestrated Katie's near murder. Maxwell's guards secured the building. It was just me, Maxwell, and Eliza. She walked in looking utterly composed, elegant, unconcerned. "Patricia, what's this about?" "I have a board meeting in an hour." "The board can wait," I said quietly. "We need to talk about the $2 million the Curvino family paid you to sell Katie." Eliza didn't even flinch. "I have no idea what you're talking about." Maxwell stepped forward, but I raised my hand. This was mine. "We have the bank records," I said, "the surveillance footage, the communications. But that's not why you're going to cooperate." Eliza finally showed a crack. "Oh, and why would I cooperate with you?" "Because I'm going to media," I said simply. "The teacher who took a bullet to save a child. That's me. That's my story. And I'm going to tell them about the elegant conservatory director who sold that same child to organized crime. Who do you think they'll believe?" "You have no proof." "I have a bullet scar," I interrupted. "I have medical records. I have a heroic narrative that the press will eat up, and then I'll tell them about my accident, the one that ended my career, the one you engineered so you could have a desperate, grateful employee who would be predictable, who would be your perfect tool." Eliza's face went white. "Your reputation is everything," I continued. "Your board, your donors, your legacy. I will burn it all to ash. Or you can cooperate. You can give Maxwell everything he needs to destroy the Curvino operation. You can testify. And maybe you get to retire quietly instead of going to prison for conspiracy to commit murder of a child." The silence stretched. "You call me a pawn," I said softly, "but pawns can become queens. And you're in check." Eliza's shoulders sagged. "I'll tell you everything." Maxwell's guards escorted her out. I stood in that studio, breathing deeply, feeling the weight of 2 years of victimhood fall away. I wasn't broken anymore. I was forged. The next 3 weeks were a blur of testimony, raids, arrests. The Curvino operation crumbled under the weight of Eliza's cooperation. Maxwell's organization emerged stronger, more secure. But before Maxwell left to personally oversee the final takedown, he came to me with papers. "If anything happens to me," he said, "you're Katie's legal guardian. You're the only person who has ever truly protected her. Nothing's going to happen to you." I whispered, "Promise me you'll stay. After this is over. Promise me you won't disappear back into invisibility." "I promise." He cupped my face in his hands. "Stay, not as an employee, not as a protected witness, as family, as mine." I kissed him then. Finally, fully, I'm already home. 3 months later, the Juliana Conservatory was gone. In its place stood a beautiful new building. The Juliana Conservatory for Young Musicians, named for Katie's mother. Maxwell gave me complete control, directorship, funding, autonomy, a place where teachers were valued and children were safe. I stood in the main hall, wearing a tailored suit instead of a simple cardigan. I wasn't hiding anymore. I was present. Katie ran up, her recital dress swishing. "Aunt Patricia." I got the opening piece perfect. I knelt down, hugging my niece. The ache in my side was just a scar now, a reminder of the day I stopped being a victim and started being a hero. Maxwell appeared in the doorway, watching us with those Riverstone eyes that now held warmth instead of just calculation. I'd taken a bullet for a child I barely knew, and in doing so, I'd found the family, the purpose, the love I was always meant to have. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was seen. I was valued. I was home. Patricia's story started with a split-second decision and ended with a life rebuilt. You just witnessed all of it. Now make your own split-second decision. Subscribe, because if this story moved you at all, you owe it to yourself to be here for the next one. Don't be the person who watches and forgets. Be the person who stays. Hit subscribe right now.